I don't know, that's exactly what I was gonna bring up, the triage part, I think needs a lot of work, because that's huge.
Yeah. And each circumstance will be so much different.
Yeah.
You know, they're gonna set up the scenario that tells us whether we're gonna be able to use that hallway or not, or do we have to take them clear outside around and just take them automatically to ER versus in here.
But if
There's
the
a lot of
ER is
things.
damaged, or the
Right.
hospital's damaged,
Then their
then
ambulance,
So
the
that's-
ambulance will take them over to McCook Hospital. Yeah.
At least this exercise gets us to thinking of the what ifs, because we're never gonna be able to come up with the exact scenario that happens.
never perfect.
You know, so at least if we know our roles and we know how it all works together and how we work together, hopefully it'll be a little easier to manage than being, what, you know, what do I do? I'm here by myself and,
I was thinking if we got those armbands, brand labels, and put them on those armbands in the doors and stuck them with their meds, you could just pull them out of there. And, I mean, I don't know if that's something we want there all the time,
no,
but.
Well, I was thinking maybe get a plastic sleeve and make a copy of the face sheet and the dietary sheet and have it
Yeah.
written in, have each one in a sleeve, that way you can just grab that sleeve and you'll have it all with each resident.
We just need a box to have all that stuff ready.
Mhm.
Right now at the nursing station, there's a 3-ring binder that says disaster. The first of every month, Charity puts all the orders of every resident in that. Then I have a second copy at my house, because it's like, okay, so what happens if tornado comes through, that book maybe. So there's another copy at my house that I take home the first of every month to have, because I'm far enough out that I would bring that book in. And there's sleeves in there, and we've talked about, because we went up and listened to the one they did in Imperial. They had backpacks. We've heard different things, and a lot of them said they had backpacks, and they have a closet that has the backpacks, and it has like 3 tins in every one of them. It has their face sheet, and it has their medication, their physician orders. There's pros and cons of it. Then they said, well, those get wet, and they had papers that got wet, and then they couldn't read it as it ran. So that's why we got the Ziploc. They're like 2-gallon bags, and that's just a matter of, you know, and that's when we're gonna learn this. Actually, is it better to have this in a closet with, say, this is room 20, and it has 3 tins in it, you know, might not be the right size,
That
but.
part of the hospital and the Manor, and, you know, half of them are there, but half of them aren't, then what do you do?
Yeah, there's lots of, like I say, makes a difference if the hospital still function or not. If it's the hospital, the nursing home that gets hit, incident command, we will be run out of the hospital. We won't have a lot of these names on here. They will run it, it might be that they have a section over here, but they, you know, logistics, all that stuff will be through the hospital, and then they'll direct us what to do. But yeah, it's totally different, and like Barb said, it gets you thinking of, gosh, if this happened, what would we do? We did a table talk 3 or 4 years ago, Charity and I, and a couple from Arapahoe and a couple from Beaver City, and just kind of talked through, you know, because it was like, this is so foreign to nursing homes. Nursing homes have never had training on this, so it gets you thinking. So good questions, but then bring questions then too, or write them down ahead of time so we can ask Heidi ahead of time. The more we think about it, the more things that won't fall through the cracks.
In Elwood, they had things ready, but the problem is there was no one in charge to make sure, like, okay, someone goes from medium to large pull-ups and they have their little bag ready, now they have the wrong size in there.
That's
You know
what
what I
I was
mean?
thinking, to keep that
After a
updated
while, it just
constantly,
got
yeah.
to be like, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this
somebody's
is
gonna
wrong. You know,
have,
so it was
somebody
kind of
passes
a
away,
waste.
throw away when somebody new comes
Yeah.
on. We're gonna have to have a rotating group, and everybody's gonna have to take part in doing things
Right,
like
keep it
that.
up.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna have to be all of us to be able to take our turn to go through the list or whatever to do those things.
And another thing to consider is if it does just hit the Manor, I mean, it could have hit other parts of town, and the
Right.
ER might be swamped with everybody else, and we can't just haul everybody over there too.
That's why we need the triage here.
Yeah.
Or wherever we're put. And hopefully, you know, somebody said about what happens about the whole hospital and nursing home gone, or no supplies left. That's why we're working with the mutual aid with the other nursing homes as well, so they can help back us up and vice versa in situations like that.
A lot of these forms that she gave today, they are on the internet, and we've looked at all, because in that book, we have the tracking forms already in that book. And Terry has them in that little pack there, but we also have them in that book. But yeah, who knows if that's gonna be here or not, you never know, so. Barb wanted to talk, or did you pick out who you
Well,
think?
if there can't be a tie, I need to shut my eyes and pick one, so if you wanna. I'll think, oh, this one, and then I'll look and go, oh, well, they don't have that over there, so I was finding
Okay.
as many
Flip a
areas
coin
with
or
both.
something, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But everybody did an awesome job. I mean, I enjoyed listening to you guys talk about it. And I think it was that.
Just switch them around and all. Just touch one, how's that? Whoever this one was, now we probably can't tell who did it.
We had pink on the bottom.
That was theirs.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's get a chamber buck.
Technically, it's not.
It's $5 chamber buck.
Thank you.
There you go. There you go. Barb wants to talk on a couple things yet too.
Okay, I need a volunteer. Two volunteers. Okay, Mona and Margaret. Mona and Margaret.
Double M.
For everything.
I hope everybody had time to look over the handouts and the tips on aggressive behaviors. We put it in the communication book and I emailed it to everybody. They have some real good tips there. Today we're just going to talk briefly about what's on here, but then we're going to actually practice some kind of safety things for yourself when you're in that situation. So one of you is the resident and one of you is the caregiver. And Margaret
Be nice,
can't walk
Margaret.
by herself. Margaret has dementia and Margaret is going to stand up and you're going to intercede.
Okay.
And then we can give her feedback whether what she's doing is the best practice or not. Okay?
Get the lift.
There you go, that's probably.
She's taking care
Goddamn bitch.
Okay. Stay over here for a little bit. Do you want? Do you want some? Do you need to go to the bathroom, Margaret? You better leave those alone.
Okay, that's good enough. More than what I anticipated. I was just waiting for when the resident stands up. What do we often do?
Sit down.
What should we do in that situation when he's not falling down? When the person's getting up, they're not supposed to walk by themselves. We come rushing to the rescue. Are we adding to the problem by what we're saying and doing, or are we keeping it? So what are some tips when somebody stands
Put
up?
your gate mat around him and say, where we wanna go?
Okay,
Where
you
we
ask-
going?
walk with
Should we
me?
go to the bathroom?
calm.
give them choices.
You should ask them, you shouldn't tell them.
Right, like this said, avoid confrontation and giving them demands. Sit down, sit down, sit down. That's what we want to happen, and we're in a hurry. We've all done it, including me, but that's not what we want to do. If we have to stand there for 3 minutes, usually what happens, they sit right down. They might go around the corner. You might need some mutual aid for somebody else to bring another chair. We really have to be careful with our body language, what we're saying. She did a good job when Margaret was on the floor and being assaulted. What did Mona do?
She sat down over there away from him.
She
and
sat
just-
away from her. Tried to keep herself out of harm's way of the shoe, if possible.
Shoes.
What happens if Margaret would have pulled her brief off laying there on the floor?
They've done about it.
Okay, yeah. You know, if you don't put yourself in harm's way or the resident, try to maybe get somebody to get a blanket, and you might just have to throw, the blanket might go off, you might just have to redirect traffic for a while and let the situation kind of simmer down. Eventually, being on the floor is gonna hurt, and usually someone's gonna want to get up. If they're injured severely, obviously, we're gonna have to step in and do something, but if it's a behavior, we're gonna wanna be pretty cautious there. Yeah, you already said do not give demands, don't rush. She was very quiet. She got down as low as she could, being safe. How about her stance in relationship to where Margaret was at?
She wasn't right in her face.
Okay, right, she wasn't right up here where she's gonna get smacked. Okay, we're doing all these things just right. We get Margaret to stand up, that the behavior could happen then. So it's not that you're always putting yourself in harm's way. Sometimes it happens. So I'm having a good conversation, and guess she grabs my arm. That happens a lot. Our first instinct is to want to go, let go, you know, and start, try to relax for a while. And then the video is going to show us actually some ways to get out of that without hurting you or the other person. But if you can, allow that to happen for a little bit. Obviously, if we're bending fingers back or doing whatever, you're going to probably have to do something else to get out of the situation. So everybody stand up and get a partner. We're not going to spend very much time, but I'm going to turn on the video. We'll go one scenario at a time, practicing on each other. And what?
Wiry little thing.
I thought she was going to really take her pants off. Give yourself a little room so you don't hit each other. Uh-oh. All right. Shoot, we may have to. I can, if I need to, I'll bring it up on my phone and we'll just listen to. Okay. Let me try one more time.
Yeah. We're gonna be.
Okay, well, I'll just pull it up on my phone until we
And call name.
I hope my volume can be loud enough so you can at least hear.
Can you talk the video and make it bigger?
If you get hit or kicked, the likelihood of you getting hurt is
Turn it to the
minimal.
side.
In this circumstance, I'm standing away from my patient at least one leg length away, and that is plenty of space for me to stay safe. If she were to become aggressive, I could run out the door. As a space, I want to make sure that you maintain the safe presence. The safe presence is at least that one leg length away and off to the side. This way, if your patient needs to escape, your patient can escape, and if I need to escape, I can escape. This is also a lot less threatening than standing directly in front of your patient. The next piece of self-defense that is very important is the hit. Again, if I'm in my safe presence and my patient were to come at me to hit me, I could easily get out of the way.
I'll show one half of the room and then I'll rewind a little bit.
And my patient is coming to hit me. What I want to do is put my arms up to block it and get out of the way. We'll do that again in a little bit faster motion. self-defense that I would like to use the kid.
Oh,
And if I'm in my safe space,
You gotta help her.
I'm not going to get
Is he
kicked. I
here?
can see her becoming
Yeah.
aggressive and I
I'm
can get
having
out of the
trouble
way.
even pausing this now.
If I were not
There we go. Okay. I go, it has my email up and then it has me log back in. I put my name and everything in here that. Oh, good. So anyway, practice that part. If you guys, can anybody demonstrate it to the other half of the room?
Which we.
I've been here before. She has experience.
Video link, Barb.
Yeah, you work with
Down
kids,
one,
so.
two, right there.
Yeah.
There we go. I don't know what I did wrong, but you make
The
it
most
look easy.
important part of self-defense is space. If you're not in the area in which you could get hit or kicked, the likelihood of you getting hurt is minimal. In this circumstance, I'm standing away from my patient at least one leg length away, and that is plenty of space for me to stay safe. If she were to become aggressive, I could run out the door. Also, when it comes to space, you want to make sure that you maintain the safe presence. The safe presence is at least that one leg length away and off to the side. This way, if your patient needs to escape, your patient can escape, and if I need to escape, I can escape. This is also a lot less threatening than standing directly in front of your patient. The next piece of self-defense that is very important is the hit. Again, if I'm in my safe presence and my patient were to come at me to hit me, I could easily get out of the way. However, if I'm not in my safe space and my patient is coming to hit me, what I want to do is put my arms up to block it and get out of the way. We'll do that again in a little bit faster motion. And I would get out of the way. If I do not get out of the way, what's going to happen is she's going to come at me with her next hand. The next
Okay. Try that. You gotta be the getter and the, make sure you talk about it ahead of time so nobody's actually, if you're ready. Give me practice
Push it out a
to be
little.
the getter and Joe, did you smack it?
Good try.
That one's pretty easy, right? Anybody have any questions on that?
No question, but I have a comment.
Okay.
Most of the time when our residents get aggressive with us is when we're already
Doing something.
doing that, like going to put the belt around him or saying to someone, let's get up. So we're already closer than what they say they're
Right.
supposed to be.
That was my point down there with Margaret, that you're not always going to be out of their space when the behavior occurs.
Right.
So sometimes the behavior changes like that.
My space is hot in the bathroom, like you're standing there waiting, you know, because you don't want them to like, stand up and fall off the toilet. So you're standing there and they just like, you know, freak out on you. You can't really get on that.
And this is probably really originally for more of a psych situation, but it can be helpful to us. This is better having some of these things that at least you feel like you have some way of protecting yourself the best you can.
next piece of self-defense that I would like to show you is the step.
This is,
Again, if I
have this happen a lot.
I'm not going to get kicked. I could see her becoming
Okay, so
aggressive,
we're doing
I
the
could get out
kick.
of the way. If I were not in my safe place and she were coming at me to kick me, what I want to do is I want to step into the kick, turn my body to the side, and keep my foot on the floor. Turning my body to the side gives me less or her less of a target in which to hurt me. Keeping my foot on the floor gives me more stabilization. If I were to pick my foot up and she were to kick me, I would lose my balance and fall over and she'd be able to hurt me. Again, to block a kick, you turn to the side, keep your foot on the ground. The next piece of self-defense that I wanted.
okay, wanna try that one with the kick?
Yeah, kick.
Luckily, a third one.
Not the going. That's where I got hit before.
How are you gonna help you? Is the wrist grab.
Okay, this is,
This one.
If
this
you're
one
being
happens.
grabbed by the wrist, what you wanna do is you wanna use the element of surprise, and you wanna go in the direction of the weakest point, which is the thumb and the forefinger. To get out of a wrist grab, what you do is you step in and pull out. Pull away from the thumb and the fingers. We'll do that again in faster motion. That time what I did is I used my other hand to add some extra strength and just pulled out in the direction of that thumb and forefinger.
Make sure none of your
If she
other
were to grab
coworkers are
me
around when you do this.
by both hands, I would use the same thing. My momentum, a little twisting motion.
do it, wanna try the one hand first and then we'll go back to the second, two hands.
Grab my arm. You're gonna hit me. I have to watch out.
You guys have Okay, any questions on the one hand? Oh, away from the thumb?
I would use the same thing. My momentum, a little twisting motion, and the use of surprise, going in the direction of her thumb and forefinger. We'll do this again in faster motion.
Fingers.
Again, what I'm gonna do.
So she kinda yanks down a little bit and then up.
If she were to grab
Go
my
away.
hand,
I better stand back. Gonna get me.
I got you, okay. Are you gonna do it?
There you go. Go up, it's harder, go down and then up.
I'm trying to stay.
You're gonna pull him over on top.
Get out of the way.
Yeah, we don't want you to lose your balance. Okay, this is two hands on one.
I want to go again in the direction of the thumb and forefingers because that's the weakest point. Use the element of surprise and a very fast motion. In this case, I may notice that I might not have enough strength to pull one arm out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in with my other hand, grab my hand, and pull out. We'll do that again in fast motion.
Okay? Two hands on one.
Go like that. I got Whoever's behind you.
It helps to make the movement, that's it. Everybody got that one? Okay, we're gonna skip over the choke, but we'll go on to a bite.
A bite?
Yeah, because that could happen too, I see here. The choke would be good to know, and someday we will do that, but for now, time's sake, we're.
Yeah. Or like when you're standing
when you
there,
grab
and
your
you're
hand
far
and
enough
push
away,
it.
you know, just hold it down. That's fine.
Do you want me to do clothing pole?
Yeah, do the clothing pulled
And
up.
you do not want to pull away. What you do want to do, hold their hand to your clothes, get some help for that person to come and pull them away from you. The last piece of self-defense we're not going to demonstrate, but if you are getting bit by a client, the last thing you want to do is pull away from the bite. In doing so will cause
Take
you
your chunk
injury.
out.
Instead, you want to push into the bite, which will cause the patient's jaws to weaken and allowing you to get out. In conclusion, this lesson went through aggressive
Okay, does that make sense to everybody? They really did demonstrate that? They go towards their mouth instead of trying, your natural reaction's gonna wanna be pull, but keep pushing their mouth until they release and you can move. Again, I'm not saying we have to do this the minute someone has a behavior, but when it becomes dangerous in situations, you need something to be able to start with, so. Anybody have any, you can sit down, any other questions on, or any other techniques?
One time, grab a hold.
Yeah, in psych hospitals, we were always told you don't wear anything like that, that doesn't break, so.
They have
having-
breakaway ones.
Right, they do.
Barb got me by my uniform and
She
pulled
pulled
me
you down.
clear down. I'm like, how she
Yeah,
can be so
really,
strong?
really
The
fast.
other thing I was gonna say, when that situation, like in the bathroom or somewhere where there's two of you and going like this, and it doesn't stop, if one of you can get behind and just lower them to the floor or lower them to a chair.
Scenario, you have a wheelchair there, you transfer them to the toilet, the wheelchair's locked, because you know, you're not supposed to, you know, the wheelchair's locked, and there's like, the dresser's right behind, you know, here, the wheelchair. They stand up and get you in the corner, how are you supposed to get out of there when they're stronger than you are?
I would say stiff arm the best you can and scream and holler. No, I'm serious, if you can keep them away by stiff arm, yeah.
Hopefully you're walking.
Yeah, and yeah, well, when you're in that situation, you're not gonna be able to reach for your walkie, you're gonna need to use both hands
So that was
to
before
be
they were
diverting.
like majorly to assist, but you know, when you're still one person, you're just like, okay, now I need to be a deer. Because I can't jump over this.
Yeah, and the other thing is crisis management afterwards, after you've been through that, even though it can be someone like Barb that, you know, just takes us by surprise, you still have a little bit of emotional rush and maybe a need to visit with someone. Make sure you sit down and talk with one of your coworkers to get near it, really.
Just happened. I was just looking at her patch.
Whack, yeah, you never know. There are some real good videos. If you follow the link that I gave you in that email, there's videos on wandering, dressing, aggression, anything that you can think of is on there. Lots of them are YouTube videos, some of them are just handouts like I showed there. Anybody else have any questions on that? Joyce?
Nope, thank you all for coming.
Yep, thank you for your participation today.
Barb, will you kind of let us know what we're doing with